Spot Bitcoin ETF approval seemingly around the corner. Some people, though, are in disbelief that Bitcoin already seems so high, while others are calling for a $500,000 Bitcoin in the next 2 years. Well, it's a great time to look at the price action in the charts and see what the Bitcoin price is doing. Let's also look at many other markets where massive money flows in and out of crypto that impacts the money that can flow in and out of crypto and Bitcoin. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. If you're looking for crypto news without context, or you're looking for panic selling and FOMOing in, well, you can find that in a lot of other places, but you won't find that here. If you, like me, came into crypto because you realized the potential for life-changing gains over a 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussions on becoming a solid and shakable crypto investor, you're in exactly the right place and with the right family, the Rainmaker family. I was once new to crypto, and the reason I created this is because when I was new, back then I was looking for a crypto channel and a network or group that understood crypto as an investment, discussed the important things like investment cycles, business development cycles, projects, and the pros and cons of those projects with a realistic, eye-open view, the risks and the guesses at upside if it did come together well. And I didn't really find that. So much of the discussion was at a pretty low level. So we created it. And I say we because it's not just me anymore. It's a family of rainmakers. And you can see them here in the chat. You'll also find them in our free Telegram group. The link to that is below. And you will definitely find them in our private Patreon group that allows you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. That's where the best discussion, the best info is. There are other benefits too in the private Discord, but you will have to join us to find out. Do note I'm not a financial advisor. Paul, who is joining us today, is not a financial advisor either. So none of this be taken as financial advice. If you haven't already, make it rain on that like button and strap in for the show because today is Wednesday and Paul is joining us to take a look at the markets.
Well, it's quite an important day today because we have a Fed meeting and we're going to find out exactly, well, they're going to keep rates unchanged. We know that, but I guess it's all down to perhaps what commentary might come out afterwards. And markets are definitely reacting, which we have to have a look at. And as we can see, the crypto market is reacting or has been reacting to something. And I have my suspicions as to what that might be. So we can go into that.
Fantastic. I don't have your screen to share. We have
you don't. Yeah, that's such a good point. Let me share my screen. Here we go.
So let's take a look. What is on your mind and what are you watching, Paul, that are in the non-crypto markets before we jump over to, say, Bitcoin and ETH?
Well, the most sensitive of all markets out there is the equity markets. They discount the future. They react aggressively to what the news is right now. In other words, overreact to short-term news and data. And so I always look to the equity markets to give a picture of what's going on in the economy more than anywhere else. And people will know that I've been broadly bullish, and I do expect the markets to be going a lot higher as we trade into next year. But in the short term, it's been a bit of a correction, a bit more than I thought it would be. But we've made a V low in all the equity indices. So this is an important first step to see where the base of this or the end of this correction. Obviously, we got geopolitical risk with the situation in Israel, and people tend to focus on that a lot at the start and putting everything aside about what's going on there. From a market perspective, there will be a lot of fear selling that comes into the market. But whether it's sustained or not is another matter. Eventually, people start looking back at the fundamentals, and they'll decide whether this was a great opportunity to buy because things got too cheap, or whether it was actually a good time to panic early and sell into the decline. But for the moment, the equity markets are behaving themselves. We got a little bit more of a correction that I would have liked, but it does seem to be stabilizing and moving back higher. We got some quite interesting levels in I remember saying last week, I think, that perhaps we got towards the 200-day moving average in the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 around this 4144. I may not have mentioned it, but this big blue support line was potentially where I thought the market would find some support, maybe go back up again. But as we can see from the chart here, we're still in this correction. So taking a step back, we have to work out whether this is going to be a bigger pullback. So are we going to see a market sort of swoon into some very deep levels, which I think will be some great buying opportunities? Or is the market going to turn around and stabilize, and we see a year-end rally, and which will continue and break the highs, which will happen at some point next year, whether it's early next year or late next year, depends really on what happens, perhaps even this week. And I really mean that. I think we're so close to, if this is going to be the end of the correction, it's got to come now. Otherwise, I don't, the market will stabilize in time for the end of the year. And this does tie in, sorry if it's a bit long, but this does tie into what's actually going into the crypto markets. When something like this happens, there is sometimes a big story that everyone's focused on. That big story that everyone's focusing on is obviously the geopolitical risk in Israel. But what it might be is there may be some shoe to drop in the world of finance, in the same way that when we saw the last throes of the bear market in crypto, it was the SBF situation. So there could be something more to come out. This is why gold has gone up as well. Weirdly, the way crypto's gone up so fast, sort of almost out of nowhere, makes me think that people are using it as a safe haven for something that could be in the financial system. Now, I have no backing for that at all, other than the way the market is behaving in quite a suspicious way. One other thing is that even though the equity markets have rallied, the dollar is still rallying, or it's trying to. So this 107.34 high in the dollar index is very important, and you can see it's heading towards it. So I've got to respect the fact that the market is getting close to this high, and it might try and take it out. And if that happens, it means that we're on another leg. We're going to be going up to 108, 109. If that's happening, it's because there's some bad news out there. Now, the good news about the bad news is the bad news would effectively create the environment where interest rates will finally go down. Fed Chair Jerome Powell has been saying higher for longer on interest rates. He's been talking really tough, and he's been trying to let everybody know that he's going to, not bend to the whims of the financial markets like his predecessors. Unfortunately, whilst that's all well and good, I think there's too much money at stake for him to hold his view if things really start to go wrong. So if we get a major situation out there, in other words, a major player who would benefit from lower interest rates, those interest rates are going down. Otherwise, he's going to get kicked out. So the bad news might end up being good news, but we could be in for a bumpy ride. And all the while, I think that's a positive thing for crypto, funnily enough.
Yeah, that's interesting what the S&P is doing, and is definitely at a support level that was, those charts look very interesting. Like, it has bounced to the upside. Why don't we look at that versus Bitcoin's chart and just look at, it's funny how correlated. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average has been less correlated than the NASDAQ to crypto, but it has been striking how correlated they've been over the past 6 years since I've been in crypto. I wonder if at some point they don't decouple, but for now, Bitcoin or crypto in general has been pretty associated with the NASDAQ.
I think overall they fall into the category of what we'd call risk on. So risk on is what you buy when you've got a bullish market, and a bullish market in equities has been something that has been pervading the market since March this year. So from the March low, all equities have been going up. It's just that we got into this correction, and it feels, let me put a chart of the S&P up. So if we see the S&P and we go back to March this year, that was a considerable rally, and it's only correcting part of that rally, even though if you believe the headlines, you'd think we're in a massive bear market, which we're not. We're just in a correction. So if you think about what the markets in crypto have done. They had a decline in the same way that equities did. Then they hit the low panic sell-off, and then they went sideways for a bit, which is what equities have done. But equities squeezed much higher. They had a very decent run. Which is exactly what we're seeing now, which is why I kept saying I think Bitcoin and Ether in bases, and these bases, the longer the basis goes on, the bigger the following rally. Now, that doesn't mean that they go up in a straight line forever, but they've definitely woken up. Now, whatever wakes them up, whether it's the fact that the halving's coming, or whether it's an external push, or a realization that the technology might be adopted by more institutions, it's a diversified asset class that could work with, commodity traders, CME, sorry, not CME. They're effectively people who are looking for uncorrelated risk to the equity markets or uncorrelated markets to trade as part of a bigger fund, whatever the reason, or just a realization that there could be something in having a small amount of a portfolio just in case it goes to 1 million, like some people are saying. Whatever the reason, it has woken up. And people think just because you've got a channel that talks about crypto, you're always bullish. Well, we're not, or I wouldn't be. You've got to be bullish at the right time and then bearish at the right time. And you've talked about that from a cycle point of view. So what we're saying here, it's back to the brick and the rubber band. Sometimes the markets move forward and nothing happens in crypto for a while, and then boom, it all happens at once. And there is this waking up of Bitcoin's move. Now we're seeing some of the altcoins catching up. So there's bargain hunting in the altcoins, which is a familiar pattern compared to what we've seen before.
It is. It's an exciting time. I want to shout out all the people in the comments. We have Mike Jones jumped in, said, I can't wait. Bill Gardner said, first like, when Incel token. Incel, I'm not familiar with that. That might be Justin making a joke.
Hey, guys.
What's up, Rainmakers? Another beautiful day. Thanks for hosting, Jay and Paul. G Money is excited about OMI. Happy Hump Day, fam. Cool. All right. Yeah. Also, we will be taking a few live picks. We have some to get through, and I have to cut us off just before 90 minutes so that I can go to my next meeting. Toward Lance here. Lance, good to have you.
Hello there.
All right. Let's see. What are you looking at in Bitcoin's chart?
So the breakout we've seen, and this was this rush against the resistance right up here that we talked about last week. So what's happened now is we've got this consolidation, which is, this is called a flag or a pennant formation. And what it involves is a very sharp move, and then the market stays pinned to the top of the range and goes sideways for a few days. And then what we should see is another very similar move straight up. So this could potentially go to sort of 40,000, 42,000 in very short order. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that's happening. I'm just saying that this is what this technical pattern, when it works, does. So it's got all the hallmarks of a consolidation, or what's otherwise called a continuation pattern, and it's continuing this trend. So we saw a little one in here. See that the market goes up, consolidates, bam, and we're seeing it again here. Now, the only thing with this is it is a bit like a train at a station. If it doesn't move quickly, then all bets are off. It kind of it has a shelf life, where if it hasn't moved, it's stayed too long. So the idea behind the psychology is the market goes up and most people are bearish, so they short the market, they sell into the rally, and they're hoping that they'll get a pullback to buy back. And instead, actually, the underlying fundamentals are very positive. They don't get much of a chance to buy back, and the market goes for another squeeze, and they're all forced to buy in one really sharp move. So a break of the high, which is matched at 35,257, if you see how that's where the resistance is coming in. The bulls are just trying to push it over there, so it would tip over like going off a cliff and the market should just go up in a straight line. So that's what they're looking for. That's potentially what could happen from this pattern. And if it doesn't go in the next few days, then kind of all bets are off, because it's a very short term sort of setup. So it is quite possible that it will fail. If you want probabilities, it's better than 50-50, 60-40 is usually, but remember the 40% is that it won't work. It's just that when it does, it moves a long way, and it kind of pays for all the ones that doesn't work. The other thing to point out from a fundamental point of view that can sometimes come in at the same time is that we've got non-farm payrolls, I believe. I have to double check. I'm pretty sure we've got non-farm payrolls this Friday. So if we got non-farms, just to go back to what I was saying about Jerome Powell and his stance on I'm keeping rates and I don't care what the market thinks attitude, he is looking at non-farm payrolls as his decider as to whether the economy is doing well or not. If there's any weakness in those non-farm payrolls numbers, you watch the dollar will crumble. But if they're really strong, then it could go the other way. So, it really is a very important week for the markets. And I think either way, crypto will benefit, because if it goes down, if the market's weaker, we've got lower rates, boom, it's game on for risk on. And if it's not, then it's going to cause problems, definitely in the financial markets. And that, I think, will cause at least a short-term move into safe haven assets, which at this stage, I think, will be Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Chris says that, and this is on my mind a lot, if the Bitcoin Spot ETF gets approved, it'll cut through 42K like a hot knife through butter. Yeah, I'm excited to see what that leads to, and how many people buy right away, but then kind of I think it might still come up in steps, because probably some institutions will buy right away, but then it opens kind of like a railway that money can move in much, much, much faster. So I'm excited for what that adds up to.
Yes, I mean, it should be noted that some investment funds may want to buy Bitcoin, but because of their the sort of company documentation, they can't. They're not allowed to, but they may be allowed to invest in whatever ETF they want. So given that, it would be a big deal. It would open the door. But you'd also expect, remember, the buy the rumor, sell the news type situation.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that people are buying it ahead of it based on that news. So when there's positive news out there, or potential positive news that everybody knows about, I'd be slightly cautious of that. That's all I'm saying. It could be that, and it could be something else. So it might be that the market gets that news, you see a spike, and that's the final move before a correction. I think it's healthy to have a correction. As much as I'd like the market to go up, I don't want it to go up too fast. Otherwise, it will get overbought. It will get too many kind of short-term players who don't know what they're doing, investing all their money in and thinking the market's easy, and then it becomes dangerous and it will retrace. And I think we're a long way from that, but it's, we even in the short term, this thing could get very volatile.
Fantastic point. Yeah, I have seen that play out over and over again. The buy the rumor, sell the news. So maybe when it gets approved, all the buying will have been done in advance of that, and that maybe there's actually a sell-off before later. It will lead to better things in the future. But that would be interesting. The market does try to take the most amount of money from the most amount of people, and if it played out that way, it would take a lot of money from Main Street hands, right? Because they'd be expecting it to pump tremendously once that does get approved.
Yeah, the market has a very strange logic that once you get your head around it, it makes sense. But on paper, it doesn't seem to work. And so good news actually makes the market go down, and bad news makes the market go up. It just depends. It depends on whether it was known or not, or whether there was a chance to anticipate it and effectively get positions ahead of it. So overall, the trend, I think, will still be to the upside. This is a really good basing pattern that we've seen, and certainly in the main direction of the trend. And I'm pretty sure it's one of the best, if not the best performing asset out there this year. Now I could be wrong, but I don't know. I don't know much else that's performed as well as Bitcoin this year, and it's fairly silent from mainstream headlines from what I can see.
Yeah, we'll get to experience this firsthand and how this plays out. I do think, I mean, the rumors are that the Spot ETF gets approved later this month, so we'll get to see. And I try to approach these things with curiosity and trying to learn from it. Yeah, cool. Let's jump into some of these altcoins. Let's first take a look at Solana, which Solana has been doing some interesting things.
Yeah, to say the least. It's been on a tear. Actually, somebody asked about it 2 weeks ago, I think, and we were talking about this looking good as a breakout. 26.62 was the first breakout level. And then it went for the next one at 32.40. Now that little continuation pattern that I'm talking about, you can see it here around the same resistance point. That's what I like, where it goes up, it goes sticky against that level and then carries on the move. So look, it's now become a fairly late place to jump in and suddenly decide to buy. There's a bit of resistance up here that I think will make it correct. So usually the market will do just a little bit more to get you in and then correct. So my guess is, and it is a guess because it's kind of gone far enough, I think, it will get to around $48. And then the short-term players will go, wow, that's plenty enough for me in the short term. I'm going to take profits, and we'll see a correction back down. So depending on how I would play it, if I was playing it from a short-term perspective, with a long position, I would hold it. I'd see no reason to get out, but I would get an itchy finger to hit that sell button around 48. If I didn't have any, which actually is the case, I may have a very small position, but nothing significant. I'd take this as a very good sign that this is leading the altcoins in terms of the rotation. And if we get a pullback, a substantial pullback, this 32.40 should now, from a ceiling, should now be a floor. So any pullbacks towards this area on a correction would be a good support area to buy, or somewhere to put my stop. So the longer term outlook is bullish, I think, as it is with everything, with most things in the crypto space. But whether I'd buy it right here, right now, it feels like we're squeezing the last bit out, the last bit of the rally. We're kind of late into it, so I'd expect a bit of a pullback first. So there will be another opportunity to get in, I would think. So it's a buy from a long-term perspective, but getting towards the end from a short-term perspective.
Yeah, for me, so for you, it's a buy short term or just for the next swing up. For me, it's definitely starting to be a concerning point. It just, so when something runs this hot in advance of everything, every once in a while it continues, but a lot of times it pulls back, and I've just seen that over and over again. So to me, it's starting to hit my radar of it's definitely a take profit zone. So for me, it's a sell. Now, would I be selling my whole position? No. Would I be taking profits? Yes. Yes. Really juicy price points in the past. And now, other than maybe a short-term buy trying to do a quick flip, yeah, it's I just like other options that are lower priced. Now, there's some predictions that Solana's going to 500 and other things, and it might go higher than that even. But things don't run up in a straight line. Usually they go up and then they correct, oftentimes downward a lot, especially if we're not yet in like the bigger bull run. And even if the ETFs get approved and things look bullish, what happens is things slowly kind of move up over time. And that means if things run really hard, they usually then come back until we're in the full blow off top. And there's a chance that happens in the next 2 months. Most likely that happens sometime late next year, maybe the year after. All right, let's take a look over at Engine Starter, which is a launchpad. And it's one of my favorite launchpads. So the ticker symbol is EJS.
Yeah, so I had a look on the Coin Trader and couldn't find it there. So, or it wasn't updated. I got to the 31st of October and it didn't have the current price. So this is why I've got it on the Trading View chart. So look, this is interesting in the sense that we are in a potential basing pattern. Downward trend, very smooth. Then we've got this potential left shoulder here, head, and a right shoulder. Now, what is a head and shoulders reversal? All it is you're saying that the market has stopped going down, which it has from this point here, from May last year. The market, yes, it did trade into a low, but if you take this kind of average price from that point to here, you can see it's gone sideways. It's almost like a mirror image in the way that it's made a low and it's made a high, and it's right back to where it was May last year. So if you'd shorted it, in other words, if you'd sold your coins, you'd be thinking, well, I've not made or lost anything. It's back to the same level. I could just buy it back again. Even though it did actually go down in that period and it went up in that period. So we're in a fairly neutral position, but it is a bit more than that. Because context is everything. The previous trend was down and now the trend is to the sideways. So that is significant. That tells us that the market is no longer selling this product, and the next step should be a reversal of that trend and a move upwards. Now, the broader market supports a rally in certain altcoins. It doesn't guarantee it. Obviously, we're playing in the more risky areas here where things can go wrong on a project level. But at least the sector potentially is behind things going well and more interest coming in. So given that, I would err on the side of being more positive about potentially the outlook. A 50-50 outlook becomes a 60-40 because of the bigger picture and the fact that this is creating a base as well. So to summarize, the trend has been down. It's now forming a base, and that's interesting enough to warrant a relatively small position, because it hasn't moved much and it's still got some work to do, but a position nonetheless. So a small buy for me and kind of forget about it, maybe put a stop below this 0.0030, maybe a bit lower, or just I would put a position in that I'd forget about, a few $100, and then expect it to go to zero, but be sort of happy if it does rally aggressively. So I do like the way this symmetry is playing out as well. So if you look at this side, this is the left shoulder and this is potentially the right shoulder. So technically it's doing some interesting things, but obviously, again, just to say, as a single project, you've always got to be careful, and there may be other, headwinds coming against it that I don't know about. But as far as the technicals goes, it's a buy for me.
Awesome. Let me do that. Paul, buy. Yeah, some context I want to share about this, because I think about these launch pads a lot and they really haven't boomed. You've seen a little bit of that, and I wanted to give some context on Engine Starter. For those watching it, here is coin market cap, and those that weren't around in 2021, you may not realize or have seen the significance of launch pads. And they've been out of people's minds because during a bear market, they're not near as big of a deal. But what they do is they launch new projects on them. They'll often do some pre-sale raises, and then when they go public, they'll often launch through a launch pad. And a recent project that's done really well launched through Engine Starter, and that's Games for a Living. So Games for a Living, you can see when it started trading, it quickly went up to 5 cents. It's now at 37 cents. But so here's Games for a Living. So it was at 5 cents, now up to 3.7 cents. So it's gone up 7x from it launch, but it did launch on Engine Starter. So if you had tokens on Engine Starter and had bought this, you could have actually got it at 0.4 cents. So in order to get gain for a living tokens, you would have had to have a bunch of engine starter tokens. And the more engine starter tokens you had, the higher level you could have qualified to get. And you would have been able to buy gain for a living tokens at 0.4 cents. And now what are the prices all the way almost, well, it looks like 9x from that. And so that's the relevance of these launch pads, and specifically ones with good connections so that they can get some of the upper tier games. Because as you see, in this particular case, the only platform that it shows that it launched on is Engine Starter. But sometimes these will launch on a few different launch pads as they're launching. And so this is why I've been following Engine Starter. Another one I like with good gaming connections is Spores. Now, you haven't seen a lot of projects come out like Games for a Living and do so well, but there will be a lot more as we enter a bigger bear market, especially when we enter that period that's like a blow off top. And that's when the tokens for the launch pads do incredibly well. And if you have a bunch and you're able to participate in the launches, it's like a compounding thing where you have the tokens are going up, you're able to participate in some of those launches. You can then often immediately sell the positions from what you just bought, and sometimes get it 3 or 4 or 10, or sometimes if you're really lucky at 50x on what you bought in the initial DEX offering or the IDO launch, and make some compounded profits there. And then you want to take profits on your launchpad token as the market continues into a blow off top, because they will retrace tremendously once the market slows down. Cool. Great suggestion by one of our viewers. Let's take a look over at so I guess at the current price for me, let's see. Let's go back to Engine Starter. It's a buy. It's not as cheap as it was, and the market cap is now 13 million. A lot of the tokens are in supply, so we see 71% of the tokens are in circulation already. I like that. Market caps of projects like this can go to a couple 100,000. So it could go 20 or 30x from here. But what's nice about having the tokens, and maybe it goes higher, maybe it goes to $1 billion market cap, which would be what is 65, 70x from here. But then you get compounded profits because you're able to participate in the launches. And so it's more than just the multiples that you make by holding these tokens. All right. Let's jump over to ERN.
Okay, so I thought I had the right chart on ERN, but this one doesn't look like it's been updated since May last year. So is it ERN or is it Ethernity Chain?
Ethernity. Yep, Ethernity Chain.
Okay. That's still not. Let's try something else, because that looks like a base actually, or looked like a base there, but it's not great data. Let's have a look. Should I put it on something else?
Yeah, CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap should give you some better history. Yep.
Okay. Right, here we go. So, oh, okay. So funny. It looks fairly similar to how it did in the chart in May, but that's, I don't know. Maybe it's changed. Anyway, so what's going on here? We have got a downward trend, which is not great, but we have got a very solid level of support, which is down here. The low is at $1.26, so that is kind of a line in the sand. Problem is, technically, this is being pressured down towards those levels. Now, I had a look back at some of the ones that we talked about in previous weeks where they were in a similar situation, and some of them broke their resistance points and really went. So that's why I kind of highlight the look. If this doesn't break, then look for a move in the opposite direction. As a technical play, I can't buy something like this because it is still in a downward trend and there isn't enough evidence that the market has made a base. So there's resistance that's falling. We've got all these resistance points that are falling. Yes, it's just crept over the current kind of high of the last month or so. So you can see it's just pushing up on these green candles. So one could buy on that, but it could well be early. So if I was to buy there, I'd put a very tight stop below those lows in case things get reversed out quite quickly. So for me, it's a wait. But given how projects like this have turned around so quickly and kind of caught us out by surprise when they have broken levels, I think it is worth keeping an eye on. This could well be a base. It's just that it needs to do more work to confirm it by breaking either this high, which is at $3.17, and this high here, which is at $3.68. So 368, 317, those are the 2 points where the market turned around. If this whole area is going to be a base and we're going to see a move up to $10, of course, it's got to cross through one of those first. So at this point in time, I'm saying it's just a wait, but keep a close eye on it. There is enough evidence to show that this is pretty decent support here. Support is a double-edged sword. If you break a big support level like this, then the market can go down in this very similar green candle way. In fact, this is a perfect example of how that works. When the market hits support, comes back to it, consolidates, and then goes down really fast. So that's what I'm worried about if these lower levels don't hold. So for me, it's a wait. But if we don't talk about it within a couple of weeks, definitely sort of select it again, and we'll take another look, because these things can move very quickly.
Yeah, Ethernity Chain is a project. They've actually been on the channel before, and they gave us some NFTs to give away, some Shaquille O'Neal ones. So I'll go into a little bit of history of this. Their price has been punished in the bear market like everything. Will they do well in the future is the bigger question on everyone's mind, or at least that's always the question on my mind. And I suspect they'll do pretty good. Will they do exceptional from here? I don't know. I would love to see it. I'm going to share a few details. First of all, here is their market cap at 30 million. Now their tokens seem a little bit expensive at $1.55, but it's only because their total supply of tokens is so low. They only have 30 million total tokens. So for a lot of crypto projects, that's not a high number. Their fully diluted market cap is 46 million, which tells us they have about 20 million in circulation. And that's what gives us this $30 million market cap. I do like on the chart that it's got this nice basing pattern, which often can set up for some really big gains. And so the bigger question is, will there be some really big gains? Well, some cool things. They have worked hard to get some really good names, like NFTs for their ecosystem, right? So they paid a lot of money to get Messi NFTs. Well, Messi, as you know, just helped Argentina win the World Cup, which is a really big deal. You know, he was already said to possibly be one of the greatest of all times, and now he's definitely one of the greatest of all times. And so it's a good name to have. Now, which of these NFTs might do extremely well? I don't know. I mean, some of that is speculation. Like if you're going to go for specific NFTs, it's hard to tell which will do exceptionally well and won't, and which ones won't. Some of it is just finding names that might do well, and some of this might boom a lot in the coming bull market, and some of this might be like down the road, as crypto is no longer a new thing, that people look back and decide that certain NFTs of certain heroes or celebrities are worth a lot. And you might see some of these go to crazy prices down the road. Like this one of Lionel Messi is quite cool. And so let's see how many total there are. These total of 75 editions. I guess 2 are burned, but it's kind of a moving NFT. Really, really a cool NFT. So I do feel like they're getting relevant names. They're doing a good job on their stuff. Will it end up being huge? I don't know. Will it be like the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle down the road? I just don't know. It might be. They've got a big enough name and they've done good enough that it's a possibility. There's a second thing that can happen with their project that's kind of interesting, in that if you're holding their token, you actually can be earning stones every month, and you can use those stones to buy NFTs on the market. So I think it's called like the farmer's market, where you can then turn in some of your stones to buy things, either these mystery boxes or some of these one-of-one auctions that they do and other things. So it's a cool concept. Yeah, I expect Ethernity will do well. It's a hesitant buy because there's a lot of things that I just feel like I have a better bearing that will do really well. I do like the project. I think the team is extremely bright. So I'm going to say it's a buy, but it's not something I would throw a ton of money into, because it's too much of a guess. I like cases where I feel like my potential upside is quite good. Do I think that their token is going to do good into the next bull run? I will be shocked if it doesn't perform, and doesn't perform pretty well. But is it going to be one of my best options? That's what I'm more concerned about. Are there other things that I feel more sure about that I think will do even better? There are things that I feel more sure about that will outperform it. So that's why it's a cautious buy. I love where it is in the charts. I love where the price is at. I think it'll do well. But will it exceed a 30x or 40x or 50x? That is something I can't tell. And a lot of stuff I'm in are in things that I hope do much better than a 30x. All right, let's look at OMI. Most of the audience knows I absolutely love this one. This is one of my favorites for potential high gains. And I say potential because we're in a risk space. And so there are no guarantees. I know that going this game. All you understand that already, that this is a risky space. Bro's name is Messi. Yes, Lionel Messi.
So yeah, the superb footballer. My son worships him. So the situation with OMI is as such that this looks like it's forming a base. For some reason, the previous handle seems to have come off. So I don't know why that's happened. So all the drawings I put on the chart disappeared. But anyway, so what we have here is the left shoulder. This is the head. We're in the right shoulder, which is a corrective area before the market then should turn around, give the buy signal, which comes in all the way up here, believe it or not. So from a technical point of view, to reverse this downward trend, we would wait until it breaks this point. Now, that doesn't mean you can't, or one can't trade it earlier. It just means it's a bit more risky to try and get in before the pattern is complete. Now, we've been discussing this for a while, and the first technical signal that gave a buy was a break of this base, this small base, that then set this on what we would hope to see, which is a very strong rally, an impulsive rally that tells us that the market is moving into a new dynamic, a new trend. And so that has been the case because it was a very fast move. It stopped very close to the previous resistance, which is why we always look at those resistance points. And it's correcting back down where it's difficult to see where this will stop in terms of where exactly it will stop, because of course, A, that's very difficult, and B, because it's in a corrective phase, they tend to be more volatile than when the market's trending. Trends tend to be much smoother and reversals tend to be much more volatile. So as it's coming down, there was some support here, which it rallied off. So you can see how it mirrored this bit. So now that's broken, the next support will be here. So let me just draw a horizontal line across there so you can see where I'm talking about. So this low, that's where it could potentially come back down to before it then continues the rally back up and then completes this base. So if I put a short-term hat on, short-term, it looks like it will probably go a bit lower before it then moves higher and completes perhaps in a month or two this this potential basing pattern. So for me, I'm still bullish. I think I set my get out point Well, that seems to have just jumped because we've got the magnet on there. Let me just take that off. The break point for me is if it gets below 0.0006697, anything below that, and I'm out, because I'll just buy back in again if I wanted to. But I think whilst it's playing above there, for me, it's broadly a buy. It's still in this basing pattern. It's doing what I would expect it to do from a technical point of view, which is trade within this wide range before we move into an upward trend. So it's a buy long term, no change of view really, just that it might get a little bit cheaper before it goes up again.
Yes, I am actually really excited about it coming down. Now, there's a possibility, something that I've had some money locked up into for 2.5 years now becomes available later this month. And so I've been praying for a situation where OMI's price comes back down. See, I love OMI, and I've been trying to dollar cost average into it, but I haven't had a major batch of liquidity free while OMI's been super cheap. And it got extremely cheap for a while here. And I'm jealous. One of my friends, Jordan, was able to make massive pickups when the price was down here. And he bought a couple of 100 million OMI down at these prices, right? And oh, wait, it's showing the wrong tab. This is the tab. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And I'm like, oh, I wish I had a whole bunch. Because one of my principles, I don't sell stuff that's down to buy into other stuff that's down. I just leave the stuff that's down there. And that's just how I operate. Because I don't like switching out of things that are performing poor into something else that's performing poor. And I like performing poor because it's cheap, but it's just not a sell time to me. So one of my principles is I can only sell things that are up in order to roll into things that are down. And so I have been doing that in little amounts on stuff, but a major batch of liquidity I haven't been able to put in. So when it broke to the downside of this, because I did dollar cost average more in around here, but not super huge amounts. I would love to have it break back down. And I don't know that it'll get as cheap as it did here. It went to 0.056 cents. That was such a juicy price. That's too much to ask for Christmas, though. I would be ecstatic if that happened because I believe in the long term of this company tremendously. Hopefully, all of you caught our interview yesterday with one of the co-founders, the main co-founder, David Yu, yesterday with the OMI/VeVe. And that guy is so cool. He's just so genuine and sincere and a great leader. And I believe in his vision of where he's taking this. And so I'd love to be able to get this super cheap. I was looking in the comments here on CoinGecko, and some people put things in here like this person, D-Dime, says, OMI is garbage. Team will never deliver utility or listings. And this is the kind of stuff you see in the bear market. Our brother D-Dime over here just doesn't know what he's talking about. They expect that companies can wave a magic wand and all these things get delivered really quickly. They have been consistently hitting all kinds of milestones over the past 6 months. Like, they have been doing an amazing job. And I've worked in that side of business before, so I know how hard these milestones are to hit. And yet they have been delivering very well, which tells me their operations on development life cycles are going exceptionally well. And so behind the scenes, like, it's going tremendously well, and yet still this person is finding lots of things to complain about. And that's typical in a bear market. What they're often usually mad at is they're down on their price and they're just mad and they're saying stuff. A lot of people get it like JMed over here, OMI filling my bag while I can. BTC only 1972. I'm bullish on OMI. It's stupidly undervalued at this point. Let's get this bread. And yeah, I agree. And I'm thankful that it's breaking to the downside. For me, it's a buy. I think it's just breaking to the downside. So it's probably going to come cheaper, but it's a massive buy for me. And if I get some of that liquidity free, I will be making major additional buys.
I have a question about OMI in terms of the Marvel universe. Just that I know I made that comment before about it, and excuse the fact that I'm not that close to what's going on with it. All I see is the coin, and that's it. I've not got any other information. But the Marvel universe has really lost its way, and I know I've said this before, but I wonder, and I know that they will fix it and it will come back and it will work again. But I really, do you think that that has any bearing on the OMI coin at all, or is that just irrelevant?
Not really. So a lot of times, like the movies are actually helping people bond to characters that they didn't have major bonds to before. So a lot of the people right now with disposable income, they've already bonded to the Marvel characters over the years and in even the past 15 years as those movies have been rolling out. And so a lot of times they're like, I love Iron Man. And so the current state of the movies kind of sometimes not being as good as the previous movies were, I think has less effect. And sometimes too is the movie studios will refocus if some of the stuff coming out doesn't sell as well, then they really take that to heart and they're like, crap, what are we doing wrong here? I am overall impressed with movie studios. Do you remember in the past, like 20 years ago, Paul, when a movie came out that was related to a book or some kind of intellectual property, that movie almost always was terrible.
Yeah.
It was like Lord of the Rings finally was like one of the first times a book was made into a movie that the movie was absolutely stunning and incredible. And it started this path of the studios can make good money if they put a lot of thought into the script and the characters. And so I think Marvel hit it out of the park. And a lot of people, there might be some burnout because so much Marvel has been released so fast that's kind of satiated the appetite of people. Maybe maybe some of them just aren't as good. Some of the series and other things, they're maybe pumping out too quick without developing the character enough so that people can really like the character. I don't know, but I still think Marvel is people wanting to collect it. This idea of digital collectibles, a lot of people are still putting massive money into physical collectibles. The challenge with physical collectibles is after a while, collectors have like rooms full of them and they run out of room in their house. And there is a good case to be made for digital collectibles, especially if you can flex it in the future. So the social flex of it. I mean, what do collectors love to do? They love to show off their collection. Well, it's kind of hard to show off your physical collection unless you like carry it around with you or you take it into the office so that everyone can see it in your cubicle. Or you invite people over to a barbecue at your house, and then you can take them through your collection, right? But in the future, you'll be able to, and this is one of my questions to David Yu yesterday. And it was one of the most important questions I felt like on where they're going is they're talking about this metaverse related to their digital collectibles. And one of the major successes of VeVe was they created these showrooms where you could set up your digital collectibles. And I'll give you a few examples in just a sec. I'll show you what people have done with these. And I think this is what's going to, as they expand on this, this is what will make VeVe absolutely gigantic if they hit it out of the park with this. And that's why my questions to them were related to this. Let me see.
Just while you're doing that, I accept everything you're saying, but the problem is that Iron Man doesn't exist anymore, and characters like when I grew up as a young boy, I read some comics. I wasn't a crazy comic fan, but I remember Captain America. Now, if you as a film studio are going to introduce a new character, that costs a lot of money. It's very difficult, and you have to have a backstory and all that stuff in order to make that work. It's like any horror franchise, any superhero franchise, it's got to start somewhere. So it doesn't seem to make sense for people who know Iron Man, who know Captain America, to actually get rid of those characters because you want to be woke or whatever reason. I don't know what it is. You know, the Widow, they've got rid of what? I mean, I'm just beyond belief. It's a bit like killing off James Bond and then expecting to carry on without James Bond. I mean, okay, we know what's happened to him, but we know the legacy will continue. They're not that stupid, although that decision was stupid. But here it's like, they're not continuing forward. They don't exist in the universe anymore. It's like, what is going on?
They always can because they can retcon it, right? So how many different Spider-Mans have we had? And so they can even bring back Robert Downey Jr., right? Because there's alternate universes. that are happening at the same time. So all of a sudden he could pop in from another alternate universe.
But they need to do it. They need to do it.
I know, right? They're probably going to realize that because at the end of the day, they're a business. They need to make good business decisions. I want to
Exactly.
show you what I think the future of digital collectibles looks like. And I think some of the people I follow on Twitter, they really do a good job sharing. Let me share my screen here. Sharing what they've done with just their showroom. And imagine if you could set up showrooms and you could make it so you could share your showroom on your Twitter bio and other social media so that people can click on it and they can go into your showroom. So I want to expand this. This is somebody's showroom. And these are all different VeVe collectibles, and some of them are animated and some aren't. And to set this up in his showroom. And it's actually very complicated to set it up like this. It probably took him 10 hours to set it up this way. So not only does he have to have all these digital collectibles to do it, but I can see stuff like this going viral. So I think about what became the main use case of Bored Ape Yacht Club. And the main use case became your Twitter profile pic. So what if they launch the VeVeverse and they make it easy to share your showroom, that people can go into your showroom, such as this, put on a VR headset and actually walk around in it. And then you can really socially flex the collectibles you have, especially the ones that are extremely rare and hard to get. Because why do people really hold Picassos? Do they sit there and look at the Picasso every day? No, a lot of times it's for a store value as well as a flex piece. Hey, come look at my paintings. Oh my gosh, that Picasso. Why, yes, it is. And
That's
so,
a really interesting point, actually. Sorry to cut in because I want to reinforce that point. It's because you might say, some people say with the digital collectibles, you could just screenshot it or whatever it might be, and you've got a copy. But that's the same with the Mona Lisa, isn't it? You could just have that on your desktop, but you haven't got the original. And I suppose that's the point of it. You've got the original, and actually, in some ways, it's better because in the metaverse, you can then, like as you're saying, I think I'm just processing what you're saying here. You can actually show them off and use them in a way that's far better than having something locked away in a cabinet somewhere that you just can't see, but you know that you own, and you just hope for its value will go up.
yes, exactly. And so I think this could majorly take off as people can showcase their stuff. Now, what's funny is, like, Justin made a good point. Why would that go viral? Let me ask you, why would a monkey picture as your profile pic go viral? Why? It's just a monkey pic. Why would setting that as your profile pic? Why would you even do that if you're a major artist like Justin Bieber? Why the hell would you put some cartoon monkey as your profile pic? Makes no sense, seemingly.
Did he do that? I don't know if he did. He did. Okay.
I think he did, right? Didn't he do it? Or some of the major characters did. I think even Justin Bieber did for a little bit. And it's like, you wouldn't normally find that, but it's because people like the social flex to identify the things that they like and that they hold. So it's somewhat of a social flex. It's also a statement of what's interesting to you. So it's a combination of both of those. Now, while the prices are way, way down, it's hard to imagine why would anybody do that? Because when Bored Ape Yacht Club, when it first launched, even after its launch, it was still trading for about the same price as they sold at 0.08 ETH. And at 0.08 ETH, there was no social flex there. Nobody was putting their profile pic. Almost nobody was putting their profile pic to their Bored Ape. But then when it climbed in value to 2 ETH, 3 ETH, 5 ETH, 10 ETH, 20 ETH, then it became the social flex. And part of it was, hey, look, I'm part of this thing that's massively taking off. So will that happen with VeVe? Well, it has a really good chance. And so for me, that's why OMI I rate is, I really, really like it. That's why I'm putting more money into it. I continue to dollar cost average into it. And yes, that hurts my diversification into other projects like Ethernity, but it's just like because Ethernity has some really top intellectual property. Like Lionel Messi is one of the biggest names in sports and probably will be for the next 50 years. He really is a legend, right? Not only is he really good at football, he's actually like a good man too. So sometimes you don't get the person being great at a sport or number one in a sport and also a good role model too. And Messi is that. So there's a chance that some of those Ethernity collectibles do quite well. As far as the token behind it, OMI is extremely interesting to me. And yes, I would love to buy a lot more. All right, let's jump to our next one, which is CRU.
Okay, so Crust Network, we've got here. Interesting setup. If you'd asked me at this point, I would have said it's a sell or a wait because the trend is down. But it's now broken the trend line, which gives a potential to buy. So it's not guaranteeing that it's going to keep going up, but at least it's broken out of this downward trend. There's enough of a margin between where it is and its low. So very simply, I think from a technical point of view, I'd like it to be above the 200-day moving average, which is this purple line here, but it's on the way. So, and it's definitely had a good impulsive move from a low. So if we see this move down was quite a spike, and then it's consolidated and then had a very similar move to the upside. So this is the sort of thing where if it's going to go, it should extend quickly. And where I would sort of start ringing alarm bells would be if it broke back below this trend line. So I know it's falling, but we could use different technical levels. I would say that for me would be bad if that happened. We use the 60-day moving average here as a stop loss or as a kind of parachute level or a warning level that things aren't going right. But I just wanted to show you in comparison a very similar setup that I think I said I would wait or maybe even sell, and I think you were bullish on, which was Senate. And you can see what happened here was we had this very similar downward trend consolidation. I was expecting potentially a bit more on the downside, but then it broke the trend line and actually sort of ripped. So that's why I'm always looking for the counter to the situation as it is now, because it's a snapshot of the technicals at this point, but markets are dynamic and you get new information with every bar pretty much. So now the fact that it's broken this trend line, and we've seen other coins do something similar, I think it puts it in the buy category. So so for me, it's a buy.
Awesome. I want to share some details on Crust. Now, shout out to the person who brought up Crust to look at. You know, they actually brought it up when the price, so a week ago, and the price had not yet pumped. So when they had mentioned it, the price was about 50 cents, and it since shot up, you know, another 25% on top of that. And so congrats to him, right? Maybe he knew what was coming, or maybe his timing was just really good, and he was thinking buy while it's boring, because it has since picked up. Now it hit lower lows here right at 50 cents. A little bit of the metrics behind it. Its market cap is about 9 million. The circulating supply, it looks like maybe about half are in circulation. So that means its fully diluted market cap is about 2x over where it's currently at. So if all the tokens were in circulation, the market cap would be about 18, almost 19 million. Okay, that's a fairly low market cap. That's usually an interesting range for me. Now, what does Crust do? Well, Crust is in a space that's really interesting, and I feel like they lay out their website pretty good. I mean, it's got some cool visuals. That's nice, but I like that they put right here storage capacity. So you can see it's complete your Web3 journey with decentralized storage. And I think decentralized storage is a really interesting idea. So a lot of us use like Google Cloud or Apple Cloud or other things, but those are centralized entities. What if there were decentralized ways to back up your files or to store things so that they're accessible anywhere. And if they have good encryption, hopefully they're only accessible to you. And so here we see that they have globally distributed storage nodes, about 1,500. Here is their cost. So essentially for 100 gigabytes a year, you would pay about what, 1.3 cents for 100 gigs a year. So for a terabyte a year, you'd pay about 13 cents a year at their cost. Well, that is a cost that becomes extremely worth it. So I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. I don't know the team behind this. I don't know much about them other than what I'm looking at here. Crust cross-chain storage is available on Polkadot, Web3 platforms. I'm seeing what I would like to see, that there's probably significant substance behind this, that this would be a very interesting project for me. So I'm going to rate this as a high potential for a buy, what I'm seeing. So the user that brought this to us did a fantastic job. Can the browser you're using monitor your files? I don't know. I don't know enough about it yet, but I like what I'm seeing on this. I'm going to rate this as a buy. Shoot, too bad it's a week later and it's a little bit more expensive. It is still a fairly low market cap. This decentralized storage idea has done well. So there are other projects in the space that their market cap is a whole lot higher than this. Let's see how long their price history is. So they launched prior to the 2021 bull market, and they peaked out at $126. So, or $146. So they are massively, massively down. Yeah, cool. It's a buy for me. Let's see. Great suggestion. Let's take a look at Selframe, and it's been a little bit since we looked at Selframe.
Sure. Selframe. So yeah, Selframe, interesting in the sense that it's still in a base. Looks very similar to one of the ones we just looked at today, in terms of we've got these lower highs that need to break in order to confirm a base, but it's got a rhythm to it that suggests that this should be an upward move. Whether it sticks or not, I don't know. But it's, if you look at the cycle, it seems to have some form of timing here. What's that? July, February, and August. So it looks ready for another run, and it's starting to move. So you could potentially get a move up to about sort of 37 cents. But whether it will go beyond, I don't know. So but it really needs to break this pattern of lower highs in order for it to be technically a buy or a longer term buy. For a short term play, yeah, it could be worth a punt. But from a longer term perspective, I think this is the line for me that needs to go. Or even if it just traded above the previous resistance, that would help a lot in making it look like a base. So I suppose cautiously I could say it's a buy, but I'd also like to put a caveat, which doesn't obviously reflect in the graphic that just says buy, that it would be a short-term buy and then wait and see what sort of momentum we've got, whether it can take out this resistance and what the broader market's doing at the same time. Because some of the reasons why I'm bullish is because of the wave into Bitcoin that I think is going to flow down into these other coins. And if things change there, then it can change the ones like this that are kind of on the cusp of potentially moving. And in normal circumstances, I might be more tempted to wait a bit longer and be a bit more cautious. So the macro scene supporting it makes it a buy at this point.
Nice. Yeah, I'm pulling up here the information on CoinMarketCap. So their market cap is down in an interesting range for me. I love it when market caps are below 10 million. Even below 1 million gets really exciting for me if I think that the company has long-term potential. Now, Selframe, I actually participated in their IDO. So it was on a launchpad. I held some tokens for that launchpad. I made a killing on this because when it launched right in the middle of the bull market, yeah, I flipped the tokens and made a bunch. And so it's retraced all the way. So it was trading here for $5. I think it went to like $7. It's all the way down here at 20 cents. A lot of their tokens are now in circulation. So then the bigger question is, okay, what exchange? Oh, shoot, it's not showing the right tab. So Selframe, here's the price. It was back in 2021 over $5. It's down at 20 cents now. The next thing I look at is, okay, the website, and it's service-oriented blockchain platform. Build and manage quantum safe blockchain solutions with the Selframe SDK. So if you think about it, Cosmos has had a lot of things built on it, and Cosmos for a long time didn't do super well, and then it's done tremendously as some other blockchains has built on Cosmos, and they've done tremendously. So Selframe, my understanding is it's a competitor to Cosmos, and that their value proposition is that they're a quantum safe blockchain solution, which one of the concerns is as quantum computers come around, are bad actors going to be able to hack your private keys, your wallets, and your blockchains. And that's yet to be determined whether that's really be the case, because so few companies, they're so expensive. So few companies have quantum computers that, Google's not going to go around hacking people with their quantum computer, because that would wreck their name, and it would wreck everything that they have. But as quantum computers are held by more bad actors, what will be safe and what won't? So this is a narrative that has some high interest, right? Because we don't know if it's going to be a really big problem in the future with quantum computers. So right now they're really cheap. And at this market cap, with the fully diluted market cap just barely higher, I really, really like this one. For me, so the market cap 5.5 million, and fully diluted market cap 5.9 million. It's a buy for me. So fantastic suggestion from another viewer. We have just a few minutes to take some questions, and then I've got to run into another appointment. Eric here is asking, you've been quiet about Animal for a while. Could you update us on that project? Well, I don't know the new CEO yet. Dr. of Stuff reached out to them, and they actually responded to him really quick. And Dr. of Stuff knew the team better than I did. He helped make the connections. And so he reached out to them, and they said, yeah, that they are still working hard and setting up things. So Animal Concerts is very cheap. And a lot of times this happens, and people think, oh, just because the CEO it is either fired or left. I don't know what's the case there. And sometimes CEOs take other positions, especially in a bear market, because the position of CEO in a new company like that usually doesn't pay very well. Why? Because they don't have a lot of funds to pay their team a whole bunch. So sometimes some shakeups happen in the bear market, and it's just important that they keep their expenditures, their burn rate as low as possible, which is what new startups have to do all the time. Essentially, these are all new startups, and they launched in the previous bull market, somewhat in the bull market. In fact, did they launch after it? It's not reflected on here till 2022, but the price has gotten savaged in the bear market. So a lot of times companies struggle to stay alive, and part of staying alive is cutting their cash burn rate to as low as possible so that they can make it through the bear market. There were some very difficult times. You heard David Yu yesterday talking about OMI, and what challenges have they made it through. And he talked about the early days, and he said, if Randy asked a question, if you had to do all over again, would you do it all over again? And the way he answered it is, well, if I had to make a documentary, if we made a documentary on our chances of getting to this point, we would call that documentary 0% chance, because he said that there was like a 0% chance, and they made it through some very rough times last bear market as they were working on the VeVe app. And then it wasn't coming out as good as they wanted to. And a lot of the brands that they went to didn't understand what they were trying to do. And these are all problems of new startups, especially during the bear market. Now, they happened to launch an app, VeVe did, and it really caught traction in March of 2021 when the bull market happened. And then they started making massive numbers of sales, and they turned a corner, and now they're fairly, for a crypto company, they're fairly stable compared to almost every other company out there. And they've caught enough trajectory that their chances of survival have gone way, way up. Well, in these early stages, like Animal Concerts, well, they're still in that very iffy period. And if they make it from here, their upside is huge. Because what did OMI do between the last bear market and March of 2021? Well, they went about 3,000x, 2 or 3,000x on their token price. Like, the stock market doesn't even understand those types of returns. And so, but it was at a very shaky point. I don't know if they're even going to survive. And they went to, okay, they've got tons of revenues coming in. Wow, what a difference. And their token went crazy, right? So Animal Concerts is in a point that, yeah, probably difficult survival rate, but they are still alive and ticking, which is exactly what I want to see. And so it's a risky bet. And these are the kind of risky bets that I want to take. Now, we don't know what their market cap is because we don't know how many tokens are in circulation according to this, but their fully diluted market cap is 1.9 million. Awesome. So for me, this is a strong buy, realizing that this is a risky chance you're taking. Would I ever go all in on Animal Concerts? No. And maybe the chance that it fell from here is somewhere between 20 to 40%, because they've made it this far in the bear market. If they can just last somewhere between a couple months to another year and a half and just keep it on low expenditures, they have good connections in the music industry and with the different metaverses. If they can just stay alive till the next bull market, they'll probably do exceptionally well. And so, yeah, those are the kind of risks I like to take. And then I diversify across them because I don't want all my eggs in one basket. Cool. So for me, it's a buy. Yeah, risky point though. Any thoughts from you on this one, Paul?
Yeah, I've got the chart up here, which is it's showing some signs of life. We've had this very severe downward trend, which stabilized around September. We got these spikes here, which I don't know whether they're real prices or not. But the important point is it has actually traded up, and I think this line that I put in here at 0.001672. I haven't just put that in, that was in from before. So I think I was saying, must have been saying that if it broke this resistance, which looks logical because that was massive support, then it broke through it. If it gets through here, it would be where I would find it interesting to buy. So it's kind of half done that because it's gone through it, but then it's not sustained it, which is a bit frustrating. But I think the positive element of it is showing some signs of life. It has at least broken through that resistance, and it's above its medium-term moving average. The long-term moving average here is still down, so reflecting the trend, but there is signs of life, which is what I focus on more in the actual price. So again, I would say it's one of the riskier ones at this point, but I would be tempted to put a little bit in it for me, just for me, and expect never to see it again, but be pleasantly surprised if this goes up. So that's how I would play it. So from a technical point of view, I think really it needs to get back above the 1672 again, recover that kind of waterline for me to feel comfortable with it. But the way things have been going in the other coins, that's certainly possible. So let's see.
Yeah, I call that a coffee money buy, right? Money that you're like not too worried that you'll, if you don't ever see it again, it's for your risky stuff. And like, you know, it's crazy. Sometimes we'll spend $50 US or $100 US, $120 Canadian or $150 Canadian on like a nice dinner and everything. And that money's just gone. And it's like, you know, that makes a good replacement for those that can tighten their belt, go eat out less, and take these riskier ones with money that they can't afford to lose. They just would have spent it at a restaurant anyway. And then if it goes like 300x, it's amazing what $150 turns into when it goes 300x or 1000x. Cool. All right. Yeah, I've got to wrap up. Appreciate the question, Eric. Yeah, there are a lot of projects that I'm very excited about, but don't always update on them. So feel free. Wednesdays are a perfect day to join and ask about them. And I'll be doing more live streams coming up just as I cover. The last 2 months, I spent a lot of time covering mindset because I've been asking myself the question, why are so many people failing in crypto? They get dispirited and stuff. And some of it is just mindset. They literally just get shaken out by their emotions. So I've covered that a lot. I'll be covering more specific projects again too coming up. But if you don't get your mindset right, a lot of times me covering projects, people don't take action on them anyway because they don't have the right mindset. So I still will cover some mindset, and like what's funny is mindset is such a big determining factor. Like, for example, I've seen some people that have done well in crypto. Would you know that they've done well in a lot of other things in their life, and then they come into crypto and magically seem to outperform everyone? And it's because they have the right mindset of they come in and they just dig into learning from those that are experienced. They don't get shaken out by people that don't know what they're talking about. They learn how to sort and sift and find those that have a better grasp on what's going on and only take advice from people that really know what's going on. And so I've been thinking, why do some people come in and they just sift through everything, make really good decisions right away, and then other people get shaken and tossed around so much? And a lot of that has to do with mindset. Cool. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, had a good talk with Manu before we launched. I asked Manu to come on the channel soon. Manu leads Ethernity and share with us some of what Ethernity is doing. So, Paul, thanks for setting that talk up with Manu.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. I'm sure you're going to really enjoy the talk with him. You know, I know I'd be biased, but he's very impressive. So look forward to that. So, you know, thanks everybody. Thanks for the picks. And if we don't talk about something you know for a while and we have done before and you want to know, definitely put it in the comments because you know we need reminding. So thanks again.
Awesome. Paul nailed it in that, like, yeah, it's hard to keep track on everything that's going on. And part of the reason for these live streams and everything is because many of you will be watching things that I don't have my eye close on because I can't keep track of 20,000 projects. So it keeps everything kind of front of mind at the same time. So when projects that are taking off or doing good things, we'll be able to discuss them. If you haven't noticed, I've got 2 courses down below. One is a brand new course that I released, and it's a project. Well, there's actually 2 in that course that are massively undervalued. Now, the price of that course is $40 right now. There is a 90% off discount code with it. So you can literally get it for $3.99. So it's actually $39.90 is the cost of the course, but you can get it for $3.90. If you're interested, that course goes into something that nobody is talking about right now. Like nobody. I couldn't find videos on this, any big channels or anything. They're totally missing this. And I lay out the case of what that company has done in the past, what 2 of their projects are doing now, and why they're massively undervalued. If you haven't taken that course, it's $3.99. I made that so cheap so that it's just a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you do it? Secondly, there's a bigger course, Zero to Crypto Hero. And this is more built, and though it's priced affordably, anyone can still afford it. It is built for those that come into the space and they're going to be investing thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. And if you are new, you're going to make some big mistakes. And so I call that course Zero to Crypto Hero, because my hope is that my 20 years investing background and then 6 years crypto investing background and learning how to merge those 2 together can go towards helping you not make some of those mistakes. Yeah, because those are costly. And by learning and understanding some of these principles sooner rather than later will often save those of you that are in that position from thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in losses, but also in missed opportunities. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This wrap, you know what this is about. So enjoy. We'll see y'all soon.
Came into the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. The principles are simple, but leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong, cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. Naysayers come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, say the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.